and things are working and everything is live. Woo, we're live. So if you're just now jumping onto this, I apologize for the first 3 seconds. Welcome. Today is a big topic, how to build trust. People talk about what trust means, but how do you actually build trust? And if you have no sales experience, you may have some default ways that you build trust. And even if you have sales experience, are the ways that you are building trust and alignment and synergy to real trust? Or are you that salesperson that people try to avoid all the time? So this podcast episode is actually not just for people who sell something, or a service provider, a practitioner, a hairdresser, a massage therapist, a holistic coach or mentor, or right? Think of all the service providers in this world. There's a ton of them. Nurses, there's a ton of them. Whether you offer services or somebody else offers the service and you're the person to execute upon the service, it is important to know how to build trust. It's important not just for your career, it's important for just human connection and relationship, whether it's with business partners, spouses, children, neighbors, family members, people you volunteer with, other community organizations that you're a part of. In order for people to understand what you desire and or what your intention is in delivering a goal, a result to someone or something out there, trust is a critical piece. And without trust and communication, there's no relationship. Or at least there's no solid foundation to a relationship, right? So how do you build trust with anyone, anywhere, anytime? And it makes the sales process, if you are a person in person or on the interwebs that does some sort of sales or enrolling into your practice or your program, or this is great for you. And if you are still looking for your loved one and your partner in the world, this is for you. If you desire to have children and you want your children to learn to trust you, this is for you. If you have parents that you've had a rocky relationship with, you can rebuild trust anytime, anywhere by following these 11 things I'm going to share today. So trust is a critical piece to maintaining long-term relationships. If you don't desire a long-term relationship with someone, I'm not telling you to make them not trust you. And hubby, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to use you as an example. When I started dating my husband way back in 2005, he told me really early in our relationship of dating, right? Seeing if we're testing the waters here, that he used to break up with people by cheating on them. Like, not like heavily cheating, but probably taking somebody else out on a date or, meeting somebody else at a bar. Who knows how the cheating happened, right? There's so many levels of cheating. There's physical, there's emotional, there's, what it is. But not to go down that rabbit hole, but that's how he used to end relationships. So his relationships were very short term because of what he would do to break trust with them. And so that's just one silly but very real example. Trust and communication, like I said before, are critical, are required for any relationship to thrive. And the second you breach trust with a Taurus, which is what I am, you better be careful, right? But there's forgiveness. We forgive ourselves. We forgive the other person. There are ways to rebuild trust, but that's for another episode. Today, we're talking about how to build real trust. It's a long-term investment. And what I'm going to be covering is what I've seen to be true and my work in the world, me just living life as an experience in this world with my clients, and trust in all the ways, right? And the bonus is actually taking what you've learned today, taking some notes or saving this podcast and listening to it again, and then adding how are you going to take now what you know, form it into a way that feels good to you, and actually start implementing it into your life. That is so key and so critical. And for those who are watching over here, if you see me looking over here, vice versa, I'm doing my best today. Just doing my best, imperfect action, right? So to be honest, you can be kind, you can be honest, you have the freedom to agree, to disagree, because we are responding with aligned action and intention. Responding, not reacting. Our default from old paradigms and old stories of adolescence, childhood, teenage years, college years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond have been firing and wiring in our brain and how we survive and react in the world. But we get to choose how we respond with aligned action. Aligned action is just open, free, light, expansive. It feels good. It's not this like, closed off, right? Resistance. So honor your commitments is the first thing. And I like to bring up the book from not Think and Grow Rich. That's another great book, from the Four Agreements, because when you honor your word, you make no assumptions, you take nothing personally, and you show up as your best, you be your best, you do your best every single day, it'll be hard not to build trust with others. It'll be hard not to be a self-led, trusted leader, right? So the first one, like I said, is to be very honest with yourself and honoring your commitments. Honor your word. And when you don't honor your word to the T, even if it's a little bit off, to the T, and it could be something better. It's like, I said I was going to do this, but I did more than that. Just make sure that you are in integrity and simply clean it up. Don't delay. Clean it up as quickly as possible. No need to justify, no need to blame or shame yourself or anyone else, but state the facts and then lead to the next one, right? How am I going to, this happened, I'm going to do this now. This happened, and now I'm going to do this. Factual. Doesn't need to be messy, doesn't need to be drawn out, doesn't need to evoke all this energy and motion and emotion and all the things. I'm not telling you not to feel emotions. You could feel really crappy about it. Good. Feel it, move through it, and move on, right? So honor your word, honor your commitments. That's number one, right? Or that will be a quick way to ruin reputation anywhere, anytime, in any state. Now, admit when you're wrong. This is a piggyback to this one, right? Moving on to the next one is admitting when you're wrong. And some people have a hard time with that. I don't know why. Like, it's just a thing, like when you're wrong, you're wrong. Like, we can't be right all the time. We can agree to disagree even, right? So and this is something I used to do. I can look back in my teenage years. I can look back in my 20s, and it's hard to admit that you're wrong at times, especially when you could have sort of been right. And again, nothing is either right or wrong or good or bad. It's the perception that we put on it. But if somebody made an agreement with you and you broke that agreement, you are now in the wrong, is what we call it, in the wrong. But we just got to clean it up. It's nothing that should be taking days and weeks and months. It literally can take minutes, seconds even, depending on how big the situation or circumstance has blown up to be. And again, if you mitigate this sooner than later, then you don't have to worry about time lapsing and exacerbating something that is so small, right? Something that was a spark that now became a big bonfire, right? So admit when you're wrong. Integrity is key with this, but what's even more important when you admit that you're wrong, it humanizes who you are. It humanizes who you are. And I can relate to that part because I'm a recovering perfectionist. So when I would admit that I was wrong, it might have been easy to admit it to other people, but it was really hard on my ego. Right? It was really hard to admit, hey, I knew this wasn't the right way, or I thought I had the best idea, but this one's better, right? So it's okay. And when you humanize yourself and you promise to you, no one is perfect, and you release that pressure, because in the reality, the real cool kids in any industry are humble, are honest, and are kind. I'm not saying be nice, be a pushover, and just be a friend. I'm just saying be humble, be honest, and be kind. Because especially when you feel like it's tough to admit something, right? And that's okay. So communicate effectively. Communication and trust, the major pieces to any foundation to any relationship. Communication and trust. How do you communicate? What are your nonverbals? What are your choices and words that you're speaking of? And what I mean by this is, do not assume. This goes back to the 4 agreements. Do not assume. Seek to understand. There's going to be more on this soon, because it's very, very important that you seek to understand first before you push your ways to be understood. And then be understood through conscious, intentional conversations. Conscious, intentional conversations. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Conscious, intentional. You're aware in the present moment, and you have intention with the conversation. There's an end result you desire to experience, right? And having a way to step into your courage and your confidence and speak your truth, right? And allowing space for the other person to do the same. Communicate effectively is something that isn't a one and done, and something that people, including myself, are constantly evolving and expanding. And it's not just about vocabulary, but it is about vocabulary, because words have a frequency, right? It's all the things when it comes to communication. Being responsible for the way you respond in the world. again, respond in the world, not react, because at the end of the day, there's enough people out there reacting, default mode, reacting to this, reacting to that. This thing happens, and they're just go, 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 back to back appointments and calendars and calls and frantic, gotta hurry up, gotta get this, gotta get there, gotta do that because it's gonna be gone one day, or this is my only chance, which is limiting belief. It's not true. It's not true. So when you being responsible in a way that actually allows you to pause before you react and then choose to respond. And it's something that when you use my AAA method is not just something, again, that's a one and done. It's a piece of the pie that allows you to not only transform your self-doubts, limiting beliefs, your subconscious mind, but also sustain it into that evolved self that you desire to be, which is everything that's on the other side of your dream list, your bucket list, your desires. It's all over there. It's all available to you. But are you pausing before you react? And are you starting to catch yourself even from reacting and start to make intentional response? Because that reaction mode is living by default. And we need to upgrade our operating system from the default modes it's in and upgrade it to a new default mode, which is living out responsibility of our responding to the world with intentional responses, ways of being. And that is called living life by design. So what's the next one? The next one is be a self-led leader. I love this one. I love working with self-led leaders, especially soulful self-led leaders, and say that 20 times fast, but being willing to go first. You're trying to build trust with someone who is hiring you to do something or wants to marry you or date you or right? And or you're sharing something with them that they should try or they're very interested in and they're just not sure. You going first gives them some belief that they can do it too, right? Because you're in their closer proximity where you could probably point to a million other people who have already done what they desire to do, lose 10 pounds, get married, have children, all the things. But if you've done it first and you can relate and empathize with them and walk the talk instead of just talking the talk, which I won't go down that rabbit hole, then what you do and what you share builds a more solid foundation of trust as well. So again, you're walking the talk and you're going first as a self-led leader, not to prove anything to anyone. There's no proving or convincing in the trust relationship building sector. It's just allowing them to have the spark from your belief to light their belief. When someone is coming from a space that they have to see it to believe it, which I'm a person, I can believe it before I see it. That's just been a gift of mine, and I've grown and I've exercised that muscle. It's gotten stronger and stronger in my coaching practice, but also in my world, my personal world as well, because I am who I am. Like how I do anything is how I do everything. And it's that mental muscle, right? So when their belief is low and yours is high, they borrow your belief, they take that spark, and eventually their aligned actions will start to prove it to them as well. But it's just like when you read a book, knowledge is only as powerful as what you do with the knowledge, right? If you actually integrate the work, because you can be activated by someone's words, you can be activated by this podcast, you can be activated by a book that you read or a speaker that you heard or a TED Talk. But until you take what you've learned from that TED Talk or that podcast and you actually take one nugget and integrate it into your life, it's literally powerless. It's neutral again. And that freaking sucks to hear or think about, because there's so much good information out there that can eventually just be noise if we allow it to be, right? So going back to being a self-led leader is critical. So make sure you're integrating the talk, the walk, and making a part of who you are and not just something you do. They can borrow your belief and you'll see them transform pretty quickly, and the trust level grows very rapidly at that level. Show people that you care. Showing people that you care. How do you do that? 2 simple words. You acknowledge them, you appreciate them. You acknowledge them, you appreciate them. We say, I love you all the time. But what's the energy behind those words when we're saying it to somebody we actually love, right? Is it with acknowledgement and appreciation? Like, how do you feel? Start to be aware of yourself with that, right? Because when you start to have that awareness, Now you can decide to choose to respond differently. Instead of saying, hey, honey, I love you. Have a great day. No, grab them, look them in the face, or something that feels good to you. Love you versus, yeah, I love you. No. And you connect. You connect. You show people that you care, not just by the words. The words are part of the equation, but by the way you say it, the tonality, the pace, the cadence, the nonverbals, the touching, the hugging, the big kiss my daughter plants on my cheek every day in the car line. I love that. I look forward to it and I can feel her love, right? So showing people that you care, you acknowledge them, you appreciate them, and you use words that share that with them. Not just the one-liner cliche that we use all the time, most of the time in default, right? And I still catch myself. I'm still guilty of this, especially with people that matter the most to me, right? So making sure that you're acknowledging them, appreciating them for being and doing and sharing, especially if you're a practitioner of any service. This is important too, because doctors and practitioners, the traditional ones, have this bad rep for bedside service, right? Now you don't necessarily love all your patients. Some patients come in and you're like, oh, I have to treat John Doe again. Right? But if you can acknowledge and appreciate them, it'll make the energy between what you're doing and what you're experiencing with them shift without you telling them the way you want them to be when they're in your presence, or doing the thing at physical therapy and coming back and taking the supplements and doing whatever modalities you're prescribing to them, right? Mostly importantly, I'm hoping it's holistic, right? That's my belief and practice and background, but that's where I stand on that. So the next one is making relationships a priority. Making relationships a priority. Creating relationships that are a priority. Allowing them and scheduling it as a priority. Date nights, non-negotiable. Girls' nights, non-negotiable. Client meetups, non-negotiable. Check-ins, non-negotiable, right? Because when you can allow someone to feel your acknowledgement and appreciation of them, but those that are aligned to you, remember alignment, light, expansive, fueling, high energy, they don't drain you. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Those are the relationships you want to put on a priority. The other ones you can have soft boundaries with, and that's again for another topic. So if you are in the service industry of any kind, doctor, practitioner, hairdresser, massage therapist, holistic health, lifestyle medicine, coaching, mentoring, there's so many service providers. Mechanics, shout out to the mechanics that keep fixing our flat tires on my car, which is great because they obviously need fed too, right? So we are in the people business. The people business requires relationships. Relationships require trust and communication for long term. I don't know about you, but I'm in for the long-term game. So one other one here is show personal regard, meaning invest time to personally get to know someone, even if it's just for a few minutes or a few seconds. It's a time investment. And I know this is a big deal for a lot of people because we're all busy, but we're as busy as we allow the calendar to be. We are in control of our calendar. Quit giving your power away to the calendar. You are the one that putting the things on your calendar. Take your power back, because time is the one thing, no matter how much money you have or don't have, you cannot buy back. You cannot buy back time. So by gifting, investing time with someone, that shows that they're important and that builds trust. And be a committed listener. Being a committed listener is offering someone your fullest presence. You know when someone is present with you in person or virtually, you can tell. There's so many nonverbals, and if you can't tell, you're being aloof. Check yourself, because you can tell when someone is fully present or not. You cannot buy back that time. So it's like, if someone's not fully present and they're not valuing the investment you're gifting them, soft boundaries or cut it off, right? Because at the end of the day, what happens is that first impression you can't do over. So when you're a committed listener, the first impressions will go well. And you can fumble the ball a few times and be as human as you need to be, or accidentally be, as you're evolving as this human being or expert. But at the end of the day, that first impression will happen, whether you're aware of it or not. And so coming into it with knowing how to be a good listener and having those skill sets and flexing the good listening muscles, when you're living from that life by design versus default, responding versus reacting, and truly listening. And not when I say listening, and I catch myself still to this day, right? I have a background in high ticket sales of thinking of the next thing I'm going to say. This person's answering and they're answering the way they normally answer to me. But now I'm already thinking of the next question. Stop that. Be present, because I guarantee that question will still appear. It'll be the next perfect question, perfectly imperfect question, right? There's no such thing as perfect. But what's important to understand with this is that the next thing will be more genuine, because maybe that question's irrelevant now. And really what they need is this. And next thing you know, you just saved yourself 20 minutes of 20 other questions, because we already are here. You had like a quantum leap from this question to this question, because you've already understood them, versus just checking the box, checking the questions, and moving along. So be a committed good listener. If you don't know how to be a good listener, find somebody who is one, take a course on it, figure out the skill sets, practice them every single day, even when you mess up. Like, the only way to get good at something is to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again, right? Confidence and being a good listener is basically having the courage to take the tools, the consistent action, and you'll build that confidence. The competence comes too, which is a bonus. So when we talk about using reflective feedback, what I'm hearing other people say in their words is what they're saying. So let me make a little bit more sense. So when you're a good listener, for example, you're using reflective feedback, meaning you're using the words that the person you're with is using. What I'm hearing you say, oh, wow, that sounds very interesting. Tell me more. And then, wow, what I'm hearing you say, right? And there's different versions of this, but the easiest is it registers quickly. Oh yeah, they're listening, because they just repeated back to me in my words and my lingo what I'm really doing or feeling or what's going on right now, right? Instead of trying to either be all fancy or create our own interpretation of it. Again, honor your word, make no assumptions, take nothing personally, and be your best. How do you be a good listener? By implementing this one piece, reflective feedback. So if you pause the conversations, it keeps you engaged, and you have to listen to the person in order to speak back in their own words what they just shared with you, right? So it makes it really easy to be a good listener with that one simple step, reflective feedback. And what I'm hearing you say, using their words, what else? Tell me more, get to the root before you move on. Because trust is surface at first. If you want a trust level that's surface, then you're going to get a surface relationship or surface experience with that person. If you want a deeper experience, a deeper trust, you got to go there. You got to go deeper. You got to create a safe space for someone who can trust you to open up to you, right? It doesn't matter how good you are with any skill set that you have and how many years you've been practicing and how many credentials you have. These pieces of building trust and being a good listener are the critical piece to allowing that person to trust you and you're able to serve them. So again, the number one, no ifs, ands, or buts, to ask good questions. Ask good questions, because questions, or the quality of your questions, will totally reflect back to you your quality of life. Are you asking yourself good questions? A self-led leader asks themselves good questions. I check in with my husband. I check in with my mentors and my coaches and my best friends that I know I can trust, that will keep it real with me. And I ask good questions. Being genuinely interested to seek to understand the other person before trying to be understood yourself. You know, if there's a lot of people like to talk about themselves. It's really easy to start to get them to open up. But what level of trust do you want with them, and how much do you want to create a space that is welcoming for them to trust and open up to you? So putting them first in the conversation, but it has to be genuine. It has to be with intention, not with the intention of getting them to do something for you. This goes back to expectations and agreements, which is on another podcast, like an episode or two ago. And if you haven't listened to that, please go back and check it out. This pairs very well with this episode. Pause and be intentional again. Ask yourself, why am I even asking this person these questions in the first place? What's my real intention here? Is it to really help them and solve a problem? Possibly refer them to somebody else, possibly enroll them into your program. Solution-based. trust. No one will trust your solution if they don't trust you. Period. Write that down. No one is going to trust your solution if they don't trust you. And it could be the exact same solution that Oprah offered 5 weeks ago that you've duplicated and it works well for you too, right? Doesn't matter. They have to be able to trust you first. And so when you're pausing and you're being intentional, this goes back to even what conscious living is. Living with intention, being fully aware of not just how others are reacting and responding to us, but how our circumstances and situations are co-created with us and others. We don't get to the goal. We don't get to the desire. We don't get to the dream. We don't get to the vacation. We don't get to the amazing relationship, honeymoon, amazing car, amazing home. We co-create with intention, but it also means being fully aware and intentional with how we show up at any given moment and choosing to respond with integrity, with intention, living life by design and not from default mode. And so trust. It's constantly being tested. It's constantly, the brain's constantly checking things out. Should I fight or flight, or am I really loving this person, right? I just gave you 11 examples of how to build and gain trust with anyone, anytime, anywhere. Now we can go into different cultures with this, and that would be a whole episode each, right? But this is universal. These 11 are universal. And trust is really a beautiful thing, but it's very critical with any relationship, friends, partners, businesses, clients, family, all the vibrant, healthy relationships that you can fully be genuine and as you are who you are. How freeing does that feel? You're not walking on eggshells. You can just be you because you're confident in who you are and how you show up. Even when you're nervous, even when you're scared, even when you're speaking something for the first time. And it's really hard to be misunderstood when you're a very trusting, loyal, ethical being. So before you check the box of listening to this, go back. What did you write down? Do yourself a favor. You've been activated by something in this. You either agreed with it or you disagreed with it. Either way, that's an activation. So take your activation and do something with it. Integrate it into your daily life. Integrate it into picking up your phone, which I'm speaking to, so I can't grab my phone. Funny as that. So grab your phone, set an alarm, 11 a.m., 4 p.m. Just check in with yourself on one of these key nuggets. How was I with building trust today? Did I implement the one thing that I thought I could easily implement today? There's 11 of them. One should be able to resonate with you. Write it down, set an alarm, hold yourself accountable. If you're really bad at holding yourself accountable, have somebody else hold you accountable. Hire someone to do that if so, because that when people pay, they pay attention, right? Because activating and loving something someone says is great, but it's the knowledge. The knowledge doesn't become power. It's potential power until you integrate it into your life. And then the best part is it's a ripple effect. Your loved ones get the benefit from it. Your partners get the benefit from it. Your colleagues get the benefit from it. The people you engage with every day get the benefit from that. And who wouldn't want that? Who would want more ease and flow and freedom and fun? Sign me up. Sign me up. This is why I'm so passionate about this stuff. So until next time, I'm sending you with so much love. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Create and allow, activate and integrate. One little nugget. Share with me if you're having some trouble. DM me. I'm happy to help you. Jacqueline Mack on Instagram, Courageous and Free with Jacqueline Mack on the podcast, and we will talk soon. Bye for now.